Alright, hello there. Welcome to a new video. Who remembers Micro Maniacs? Hopefully some of you out there will do, but surely most people watching this would have at least heard of Micro Machines, the popular top-down racing game where you race around in miniature cars. Well, this is a spin-off from that series where you control little people who have all been shrunken down as part of an experiment by Dr. Minimizer. In this video, I'll be ranking all of the racers from that game, from V4 all the way to MawMaw. Who will come out on top? I'll be ranking them based on their signature weapons as well as their overall design. Remember, this is my own personal opinion. I'm sure some of you have your own opinions. Let me know your favourite characters in the comments. But with that being said, let's start at the bottom with number 12.
Farewell, humans.
So then, at the bottom is Dynamo. Originally from the planet Ohm, Dynamo, otherwise known as Lightbulb Head to me, is the first bonus character you can unlock in the game, and is my least favourite. I'm not sure whose bright idea it was to add him in the first place, but I might as well talk about his attacks. His primary weapon is an arc bolt of electricity which can stun several racers at once. The weakness with this weapon, however, is it's not lethal even at any stage. So a level 1 is pretty much the same as level 4, there's no real difference. His secondary attack is a plasma storm. This surrounds him like a bubble, and anyone that makes contact with it will be stuck like a fly on a web. This attack can be useful as you can knock enemies onto something solid, or you can dangle them off the edge and they might fall over. Although overall I don't see that happening most of the time. Generally they just stick to you, then they fall off a little bit, then they catch back up to you anyway. His design is a bit boring and plain. Quite often it can be quite hard to tell what way he is actually facing. This can cause some discombobulation. Now then, Mesme, an orphan with a tragic past who suffers from insomnia caused by an unknown trauma. Not only does she have nightmares, she can also cause others to have them with looks only a mother could love. Oh no, am I being too harsh to poor little Mesme? The weakness for Mesme is that both of her attacks only really fire forwards. Her primary attack is the ability to throw nightmares at other racers, causing their controls to be inverted. This can be useful, although against computers they tend to survive it quite easily, which can be frustrating. Her secondary attack is the Psychic Grab. You can pluck any racers that are within a short vicinity of her and they will follow behind you. When this attack reaches level 3 or level 4, it will become lethal as they will either drop down or their heads will explode, and it can be quite funny. Overall, some people may like this character more than me. I don't find her attacks that useful, and to be honest, she scares the crap out of me. Stupid creepy children, go away! Starting off inside the top 10 is Toxin, a man who spreads germs faster than I can spread butter on my toast. Potentially the cause of this current virus, which is why he's so low down on the list, the naughty man. I'm just kidding, obviously. He's quite low down just because his attacks are not that useful. His primary attack is the virus Splat. This allows him to throw his bogeys for long distances in front of him. Fortunately, however, he is immune to this attack. Otherwise, it'd be very easy to fall down one of his own snot holes. However, I do find this attack hard to control. My bogeys just end up launching all over the shop and I can't control them. His secondary attack is the Super Sneeze. This is very similar to V4's secondary attack as you leave a trail behind you. However, it's a little bit worse. There's level 1, level 2, level 3 and level 4 are all pretty much the same. They just make the other opponents just sneeze and slow them down a little bit. You don't ever end up killing them with that sneeze. So, in at 9 is Pyrrha, a lab assistant who after a mix-up is left with permanent, spontaneous combustion. She is the hottest racer in the game, maybe even in more ways than one, if you know what I mean. Wink wink nudge nudge. And if you don't know what I mean, it would not be the first time. Her attacks, however, are a downside. Her primary attack is a fireball, which she launches out of her head forwards at her opponents. I honestly almost never use this weapon, as it tends to do myself more harm because the fireballs can ricochet and end up hitting yourself. As for her secondary attack, is actually one of the best in the game, and is basically a flamethrower, burning all of those around her to a crisp. Again, a downside like Mesme is that both of these attacks fire forwards, so she can be vulnerable to attacks from behind. She's also smoking hot! So, in at number 8 is Roche, a nephew of Dr. Minimizer. He was caught torturing spiders, so to teach him a lesson, the good doctor crossed his genes with a bug and shrunk him down to the size of an ant. And you thought your punishments were bad when you was young. Of course, some of you probably are still young. How dare you? Stop being young. Grow up! I'm kidding. Roche is an oddity in that both of his weapons are placed behind him, making it hard to catch up once you are behind. His primary attack is the Parasite Missile, which act as proximity mines and will latch onto anyone that gets too close to them. Level 3 and level 4 of this attack will also cause them to explode. His secondary attack is the Web Mine, which is pretty self-explanatory. You lay behind a giant web for opponents to get stuck in. A drawback for Roche is that he can be susceptible to his own attacks. Quite often I will get exploded by my own bug or end up getting stuck in a web that I placed on the previous lap. In at 7 is Twister, not to be confused with a game where you involuntarily crush your nan while trying to put your right hand on green, but instead I mean the mad pajama wearing yo-yo maniac. His primary attack is a relic of the past as he fires his yo-yo forwards, either bonking them or decapitating them. If you use it at level 3 or level 4, it will actually decapitate them. This is one of the best forwards firing weapons in the game, and some of you probably were not even alive when yo-yos were around. Stop making me feel old. Grow up! I should really stop telling my audience to grow up. I will probably get dislikes for this, dearie me. His secondary attack is the Tornado, which I personally never see any use in using. Twister will spin around, causing a tornado that will slow down his opponents. However, when I use this attack, I'm more likely to fall off a ledge because of how disorientating it can be. I would rank him higher if yo-yos were still relevant, but it's 2020, unfortunately for Twister. As we reach the halfway stage, in at 6 is Project X, the final product of the experiment which, in a similar way to the Terminator, ends up rising up and taking over the world. One of the best designs in the game. I mean, it's a giant robot soldier. There isn't many things cooler than that. He does have some of the strongest attacks. However, they're both very similar to each other and do not have many differences between them. His primary attack is the Helix Ray, which will fire exploding circle laser rings in front of him, either causing the enemies to be frozen, pushed away, or if you have level 3 or level 4, they may well be vaporized. His secondary attack is practically the same thing, the only difference being it will be an implosion, causing anyone surrounding him to be frozen, pushed away, or vaporized. He would be higher up if his attacks were just a little bit more varied. Now we reach my favourite characters in the game. Anyone in the top 5 is the racers I play as most. And to start off with, we have V4, who is considered to be the main character in the game, since he is featured heavily in the opening cutscene and on the box art as well. Half man, half machine, he was put together after a motorbike crash using parts of his own motorbike. Unfortunately, he does end up looking like a gimp. Not that I have any idea about that sort of thing. Honest. But anyway, I do like the design of having an engine protruding from his back. His attacks are some of the strongest and most balanced in the game as well. His primary attack is the Plasma Punch, which can target multiple people at once, and once it reaches level 3 and 4, his targets will be knocked out completely. His secondary attack is the Energy Trail, and as mentioned earlier in this video, it is similar to Toxin's Trail, however it is much more powerful. Level 1 and 2 will disorientate people, while level 3 and level 4 will actually vaporize them on contact, so make sure you don't get too close behind him. In at 4 is Waldo, a rival doctor of minimizers. He developed his own minimizer ray. However, in doing so, he ended up testing it on himself and shrinking his body too much compared to his head. I guess that must mean his private parts are even smaller than mine, which would be a rarity. This is the reason why he uses a mech suit. This mech suit comes in handy as it has some of the best attacks in the game, including a laser cannon. This will shoot lasers in front of him, either freezing or vaporizing the other racers. The only problem with this weapon is it is prone to ricocheting and hitting Waldo himself. However, his secondary attack is one of the strongest in the game, as he can lay deadly laser mines behind him. And in a rarity, his secondary attack is lethal even at level 1, which gives him bonus points in my book. In the top 3 is Vortex, a physics student obsessed with space travel and black holes. She has one of the most striking appearances, with half her body being one colour and the other half being another. Her primary attack is the white hole, which allows her to emit a flash that sends anyone around her flying. Once this reaches level 4, it is one of the most fun attacks to use. You will literally see everyone fly off every track. Her secondary attack is the ability to place black holes behind her. This is also among the most powerful secondary attacks in the game, as the black holes will disappear after a relatively short amount of time, meaning she cannot stumble into a black hole herself, well, unless you turn around and fall in like a complete donut. But I'm not a complete donut, I've never done that at all. Shush, no, lies! In at 2 is Beatbox. With a speaker for a head, his origins are unknown, but he's always the life of the party. Just plug him in the corner and your party will be rocking. Beatbox has some of the best attacks in the game and are all associated with music. For his primary attack, he can send a sonic boom shockwave, which will increase in tempo the higher the level you use it at, which I always felt was a really neat idea. He can also drop shatter notes behind him, which emit different notes depending on the level you use them at. Level 1 and 2 will freeze your opponent, whereas level 3 and 4 will disintegrate them with a high note. He's such a fun character to use, and his design is probably my favourite in the game. However, there is one character I like even more than Beatbox, and I'm sure fans of the series will know who my number 1 is. So, in at 1 had to be MawMaw, and not just because I find his fart attack funny. Okay, a big reason he's at number 1 is because I find his fart attack funny. I hope you're happy. But he is overall the most powerful character in the game, with both of his attacks being really strong. His design is also one of my favourites. When I was younger, I just thought he was some kind of mutant ugly dog. But it turns out he's a mix of a pig, a Jack Russell and an ape. He's still a good boy though. His primary attack is the tongue grab, which allows him to extend his tongue and bite off his opponent's heads, giving them inverted controls. If his attack reaches level 3 or 4, he can actually swallow his opponent's whole. And of course his secondary attack is my favourite in the game, named the Fireball Fart. He can fart out fireballs and set his opponents up in flames. However, when this reaches level 4, it is the most glorious attack in the game. Just pure magic. But with that being said, this is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to leave me a like, consider subscribing, and thank you for watching. Let me know what you agree or disagree with in the comments. But for now, take care and leave me alone.